After a tragic accident involving a truck, a despondent and unemployed man from Japan meets his death, only to be reborn in a fantasy world as Rudeus. He is born as the son of Paul Greyrat, a skilled swordsman, and his wife, Zenith, a talented healer. Amazingly, Rudeus retains his memories from his previous life and swiftly grasps the skill of reading, eventually delving into the study of magic. Recognizing his extraordinary potential, Rudeus's parents enlist the aid of Roxy Magurdia, an experienced adventurer, to guide him in the ways of magic. Initially skeptical about teaching such a young child, Roxy witnesses Rudeus's astonishing ability to instantly cast spells, dispelling her doubts and recognizing his immense talent. As the Greyrat family hosts a warm welcome party for Roxy, Rudeus makes a pledge to dedicate himself and make the most of this second chance at a happy and fulfilling life by putting in an earnest effort to improve. Rudeus finds himself lost in thought about his previous life, his expulsion from home, and the fateful encounter with a truck that ended his existence while he bravely tried to save a group of teenagers. Months slip by as he trains in the magical arts under the tutelage of Roxy. However, the day of his 5th birthday celebration arrives, accompanied by an unexpected announcement from Roxy herself. She has imparted all she can and declares it is time for his graduation examination. The following day, Rudeus embarks on a journey outside of his home, his anxiety intertwining with the lingering trauma from his past, where he endured severe bullying and became a recluse. Yet, amidst his inner turmoil, a newfound realization dawns upon him. Observing how effortlessly Roxy assimilates into the village, despite the prevailing prejudices she typically faces due to her foreign appearance, he discovers a wellspring of hope within himself. As the examination unfolds, Rudeus summons forth a huge thunderstorm. Acknowledging his progress, Roxy tells him he passed the test. With the end of the examination, Roxy leaves to continue her own journey. Rudeus thanks her sincerely for all the things that she has done for him. Now liberated from the shackles of his fear to leave home under Roxy's guidance, Rudeus embraces the joy of playing outdoors alone. It is during this outing that he rescues a half-elf child named Sylph from a gang of bullies. A strong bond forms between Rudeus and Sylphie as they become fast friends. Rudeus then begins to teach Sylphie magic. Time passes, and 6 months later, as the storm rages outside, Rudeus brings Sylphie home to get shelter within his home. In an unforeseen turn of events, Rudeus, acting with innocent intentions, unwittingly removes Sylphie's clothes in preparation for a bath, only to be stunned by the realization that she is, in fact, a girl? Her full name is Sylphiette. Overwhelmed with guilt, Rudeus offers his sincere apologies to Sylphiette, yet she invades his presence, much to his sadness. Eventually, Sylphiette approaches Rudeus, and their friendship is mended. Filled with determination, Rudeus resolves to cherish the first friendship he has gotten in his new life. The Greyrat family is overjoyed upon discovering Zenith is once again pregnant, but their happiness is abruptly shattered by a revelation from their maid, Lilia. It comes to light that Lilia, having engaged in an affair with Paul, is also carrying his child. Concerned for Lilia's well-being and fearing Zenith's anger, Rudeus orchestrates a plan to shield her from the consequences. Despite being aware that Lilia had seduced his father, he persuades Zenith to forgive her, with Paul willingly accepting the blame. This selfless act earns Rudeus the gratitude and unwavering loyalty of Lilia. In due course, Zenith and Lilia do give birth to 2 precious girls, Norn and Aisha, respectively. Meanwhile, Rudeus receives a letter from Roxy, telling him to join her at the renowned Renoa Magic Academy. Contemplating his departure, Rudeus finds himself torn as Sylphiette, unwilling to be separated from him, expresses her reluctance. Consequently, he resolves to seek employment to fund their education instead. However, recognizing that Rudeus's deep attachment to Sylphiette may impede his personal growth, his parents make a difficult decision by deciding to separate them. They entrust their son to the care of an old family friend, Ghislaine, a beast woman. Ghislaine departs from the village, accompanied by Rudeus. Ghislaine assumes the responsibility of guiding Rudeus, and as they journey together, he reads a letter from Paul. The message reveals that his father has arranged a tutoring position for Rudeus, enabling him to fund his and Sylphiette's education. However, recognizing the potential hindrance of his attachment to Sylphiette, Paul sternly prohibits Rudeus from returning home or meeting her for the next 5 years. In the vibrant city of Roa, Rudeus encounters his employer, Philip Rudeus Greyrat, the mayor and his father's cousin. His task is to educate Philip's daughter, Eris. Unfortunately, Rudeus is met with Eris's hostile attitude upon their introduction, convinced that he cannot penetrate her defenses through conventional means. Rudeus formulates a daring plan to earn her trust. With the consent of her father, they stage a kidnapping, one that Rudeus hopes will lead to a breakthrough in their relationship. As the scheme unfolds, Rudeus and Eris find themselves ensnared by real kidnappers. However, through his quick thinking and powers, Rudeus manages to turn the tables, orchestrating their escape while gaining Eris's cooperation. Returning to Roa, Rudeus uncovers the unsettling truth that their abduction was not part of their initial plan, and that one of Philip's own servants has been collaborating with the criminals. Determined to protect Eris, Rudeus confronts the bandits in a fierce battle until Ghislaine arrives to their rescue, killing their enemies and apprehending the traitor. Once they return home, Eris embraces Rudeus as her tutor, accepting him into her household. Expressing his gratitude, Philip extends his heartfelt appreciation to Rudeus for safeguarding Eris, issuing a solemn warning to keep his connections with the Greyrat family concealed, as it could potentially make him a target once more. In the days that follow, Ghislaine starts teaching her formidable swordsmanship skills to both Eris and Rudeus, while Rudeus takes on the role of tutor, educating them in magic, literacy, and mathematics. Yet, Eris, played by the uninteresting material, frequently skips her classes. Recognizing the need to kindle her enthusiasm, Rudeus grants her 1 day off each week as an incentive. As they leisurely stroll through the city, Eris endeavors to purchase an expensive book as a gift for Rudeus. However, he graciously declines, asserting that she cannot present without her money, suggesting that her father provide her with an allowance instead. Taking Rudeus's suggestion to heart, Eris acquires her allowance and presents him with a vial that had piqued his interest. Unknown to her, it contains an aphrodisiac, plunging Rudeus into a very interesting predicament. Filled with worry and other things, he grapples the idea of revealing the true nature of the vial to both Eris and Ghislaine. Understand? With Eris's 10th birthday celebration drawing near, Rudeus recognizes the importance of her dance performance. So, he allows her dance teacher to borrow some of his allocated tutoring time, enabling Eris to refine her skills. Taking advantage of the newfound free time, Rudeus begins the study of various languages. Despite her efforts, Eris struggles to make significant progress in her dancing, leading her to contemplate giving up. However, Rudeus becomes an unwavering source of encouragement for her, pushing her to persevere. He starts to take an active role in assisting her with her lessons. Meanwhile, Rudeus continues to hone his proficiency in foreign languages with the guidance of Ghislaine and Roxy. Eris's progress in dancing, however, remains small. As the day of the birthday party arrives, Eris finds herself unable to fulfill the expectation of dancing with a noble partner. Rudeus steps forward, offering himself as Eris's dance partner. He imparts instructions to Eris, directing her to use her fighting prowess in her dance moves. The result is a success as they manage to dance together. Following the celebration, Rudeus encounters Eris's grandfather, Saurus. An ominous spectacle then catches Saurus's attention, a mysterious ball of light hovering in the sky. 2 years go by, and Eris, along with her family, arranges a birthday celebration for Rudeus. Although initially disheartened by the absence of his own family, who are unable to attend due to the escalating monster threat across the country, during the festivals, he is given a high-quality magic staff. Philip then expresses his desire for Rudeus to marry Eris and, eventually, become his successor. However, Rudeus does not agree to his plan. Later that evening, Rudeus then tries to push himself upon Eris, but she shoves him away. Recognizing that he did something wrong, Rudeus sincerely apologizes to Eris, who forgives him. A few days pass, and a massive cloud brimming with mana materializes in the sky, capturing the attention of all. In response, the legendary hero, Perugius Dola, dispatches his aide, Almanfi, to investigate this peculiar phenomenon. Suspicion looms over Rudeus, who, alongside Eris and Ghislaine, has been practicing his new staff. Unfairly accused, Rudeus finds himself under attack from Almanfi. However, Ghislaine comes to his side and helps defend his innocence, and a large surge of light hits them. Resembling his former self, Rudeus finds himself in an encounter with a mysterious entity known as the Human God. This enigmatic being imparts vague wisdom, urging Rudeus to place his trust in and support the man who once saved him. The meeting concludes, and Rudeus awakens in his present body. To his surprise, Rudeus discovers that both he and Eris are stranded in the depths of the demon continent. Their salvation comes from Ruigerd Superdia, a member of the feared Supered race. Ruigerd extends a compassionate hand, vowing to ensure their safe return home. Under Ruigerd's guidance, Rudeus and Eris are brought to a nearby village, coincidentally, the birthplace of Roxy. They then meet Roxy's parents. It is during their stay in this village that Rudeus learns of Ruigerd's tragic story. The ill reputation of the Supered race stems from the cursed spears bestowed upon them by the malevolent demon god Laplace. These sinister artifacts transform the Supered into mindless instruments of murder. Ruigerd carries one such spear, which once belonged to his son. Ruigerd, in his madness, killed his son, and this allowed him to break out of his possession. Touched by Ruigerd's unwavering resolve to redeem his people's name, Rudeus decides to assist him in his quest. With Eris by their side, the trio embarks on the journey to get Eris and Rudeus home. Rudeus, Eris, and Ruigerd find themselves outside the city of Rikarisu. Mindful of the potential complications Ruigerd's presence may cause, Rudeus devises a plan to ensure his entry. He dyes Ruigerd's hair and presents him as a member of the Magurdia tribe. The trio then establishes themselves as an official group of adventurers. However, their novice status as adventurers poses a hurdle to their financial situation, as they can't take on more lucrative quests that would allow them to make ends meet. Receiving more guidance from the human god, Rudeus takes a seemingly inconspicuous quest searching for a lost pet. Their quest for this missing pet takes an unexpected turn as they encounter a group of shady adventurers who have been kidnapping pets in order to claim the rewards for their return. A battle ensues, with Rudeus and his companions emerging victorious. In the aftermath, Rudeus seeks to gather information from the defeated kidnappers, but finds himself being attacked by one of them. Instantly, Ruigerd retaliates, swiftly ending the assailant's life. Disapproving of Ruigerd's ruthless action, Rudeus criticizes him and establishes a firm rule. Killing is to be done only as a last resort, cases of self-defense. Utilizing the higher rank held by the defeated kidnappers, Rudeus and his companions seize the opportunity to undertake more lucrative and rewarding quests. Their exploits gradually enhance their party's reputation, paving the way for greater opportunities. In the wake of the mana surge of Fatoa, Roxy sets out on a quest to gather news about Rudeus and his family. Disturbingly, she discovers that, apart from Paul and Norn, the entire Greyrat family is missing. Meanwhile, Rudeus and his companions are embarking on a quest, venturing into the depths of a mysterious forest to find a monster. They stumble upon two other parties with similar objectives. However, tragedy strikes swiftly as one of the groups falls victim to an ambush by monsters. Rudeus chooses to bide his time and wait before helping, which leads to one of the adventurers' deaths. After the very monster they were pursuing launches its own attack on the other party, completely wiping them out. Rudeus and his companions manage to then kill the monster, returning to the city of Rikarisu. Rudeus finds himself confronted by a fellow adventurer who has uncovered his scheme. Attempting to exploit this knowledge for personal gain, the individual resorts to blackmail. In response, Ruijerd discards his disguise and reveals his true nature as a supper. He sternly warns the would-be blackmailer, vowing to kill him if he reveals anything. With the city behind him, Rudeus and Ruijerd reconcile. The trio continues their journey, making their way towards a coastal city on the fringes of the Demon Continent. Unbeknownst to them, Roxy herself is also nearing their location, accompanied by two former companions of Paul. Upon arrival at the city, Roxy's party disembarks, ready to continue their search for Rudeus. Meanwhile, Rudeus and Eris are confronted with an unexpected obstacle. Ruijerd's status as a suburb renders the cost of his boat fee prohibitively high. Determined to find a solution, Rudeus finds himself once again visited by the human god, who cryptically introduces him to acquire food from a specific location. Following the human god's guidance, Rudeus stumbles upon a peddler, her hunger palpable. He provides her with food. The peddler then reveals her true identity, Kishirika Kishirisu, the demon emperor. In gratitude for his kindness, she bestows upon him a remarkable new power, the ability to glimpse a few seconds into the future. Eager to test his newfound gift, Rudeus uses his enhanced eye to save a man from danger. As Rudeus grows accustomed to his extraordinary ability, he contemplates selling his cherished staff in order to gather enough funds for Ruijerd's passage. However, Ruijerd dissuades him from his sacrifice. A familiar face then approaches the party Gallus Cleaner, the very man who Rudeus had previously saved. Roxy, accompanied by her fellow adventurers Tall Hand and Ellie Nelise, searches the city, hoping to uncover any trace of Paul's missing family. Unaware that Rudeus is in that very city, despite her efforts, Roxy remains oblivious to his presence, as Rudeus has been traveling under a false name. While exploring the city, Roxy stumbles upon a sparring session between Eris and Ruijerd, but confuses them to both be supports and runs away. Disheartened by their lack of progress, Roxy and her companions then decide to continue their quest in the next town. However, Rudeus and his party manages to leave the city by boat, thanks to Gallus's assistance in smuggling Ruijerd onto the ship. In return, he asks for Rudeus's aid in procuring goods from Zant port. Upon reaching Zant, Rudeus sets out to fulfill his end of the bargain by infiltrating the smuggler's hideout. To his surprise, he discovers that his mission involves freeing captive beast children, victims of the smugglers. Ruijerd dispatches the smugglers, freeing the children and escorting them to safety. Meanwhile, Rudeus remains behind to rescue a magical dog. However, he is then ambushed and captured by a pair of beastmen, who mistakenly believe him to be one of the smugglers, as they were looking for the children and the sacred beast of their village. Unaware of the truth, the beastmen take Rudeus to the village for interrogation. Imprisoned within a cage in a Doldia village, Rudeus finds himself accompanied by Geese, a fellow human captive and a skilled rogue. Their shared captivity binds them together and they form an alliance. Several days pass, and the tranquility of the village is shattered when the smugglers launch an attack. They aim to abduct more beast children. In the face of danger, Rudeus and Geese seize the opportunity to break free from their imprisonment, joining forces with the village inhabitants to defend against the ruthless assailants. It is revealed that Gallus is leading this attack and is the orchestrator of the smuggling ring. Having deceived Rudeus, Gallus had cunningly manipulated events to exploit Rudeus as a diversion, drawing the village's warriors away from their home. In a show of strength, Gallus defeats Geese and claims the lives of two of his men. Realizing the grave threat Gallus possesses, Rudeus weighs his options, contemplating whether to allow Gallus to escape. However, salvation arrives in the form of the sacred beast, who assists the others in defeating Gallus. In the aftermath of the intense battle, Rudeus is reunited with Eris and Ruijerd, who explain their delay as they were assisting the Doldians in eradicating the remnants of the smuggling ring. The villagers, acknowledging their earlier misjudgment and deeply grateful for Rudeus's pivotal role in defending against the attack, offer their sincerest apologies. They express their heartfelt gratitude for his assistance. However, the repercussions of the events that unfold in Futoya cast a dark shadow. Eris's grandfather, wrongly blamed for the situation at the city following the Mana Surge, is unjustly stripped of his position, and he is executed in front of the king. The rainy season leaves Rudeus and his companions stranded in Doldia village for the next 3 months. Within this period, Eris forged friendships with the Beast Children, particularly Tona, the daughter of Geis, the village's esteemed warrior. However, mentioning Ghislaine's name triggered Geis's disdain as he disclosed that Ghislaine was his sister who had departed the village long ago, deemed a traitor for rejecting the role of a village guardian. This revelation ignited Tona's curiosity and swordsmanship, and Eris willingly assumed the role of her mentor. After 3 months, when the rain subsided, Rudeus and his party readied themselves to depart. However, Tona was unwilling to bid farewell to Eris, leading to a rift between them. Geis intervened, persuading Tona to apologize, unveiling the truth about Ghislaine's youthful rebellion. He admitted regret for allowing Ghislaine's departure without making an effort to comprehend her choices. With the reconciliation between Tona and Eris, Rudeus and his companions embarked on their journey to the holy country of Milis, accompanied by Geis, who joined their party to Hitcherach. Upon reaching the grand capital city of Milis, named Milishian, Geis bids farewell to the group, while Rudeus decides that everyone deserves a day of rest. However, amidst their leisure, Rudeus witnesses a suspicious kidnapping unfolding before his eyes. Driven by his sense of justice, he shadows the abductors, only to be taken aback when he discovers that the mastermind behind all of it is none other than Paul, his own father. Paul reveals that their hometown was engulfed in a teleportation catastrophe, and for the past year and a half, he and his companions have tirelessly searched for the missing villagers and their families. As Rudeus recounts his arduous journey from the Demon Continent, Paul questions him about his failure to write a letter or spare a thought for the other victims of the calamity, leaving Rudeus at a loss for words. The brewing tension between them escalates into a heated fight until Norn steps in to stop the confrontation. Overwhelmed by the memories of past rejection, Rudeus runs away. Witnessing Rudeus in a depressed state, Eris tries to uplift his spirits, which he appreciates greatly. As Eris explores the city of Milishian, she is unknowingly being watched by Ruiger, who keeps a watchful eye, silently assuring their safety. Inside the Adventure Guild, Eris eagerly accepts a mission to eradicate a goblin threat. She intervenes and prevents a group of adventurers from fighting with Cliff. Eris proceeds with her mission, accompanied by a persistent Cliff. However, an unfortunate accident occurs, as Cliff's Exodus Flame inadvertently damages the goblin ears required for their tasks. Annoyed by this, Eris expresses her frustration and urges Cliff to return to Milishian. However, Cliff manages to persuade Eris, convincing her to venture deeper into the forest to hunt additional goblins. Within the depths of the forest, Eris showcases her strength by thwarting an assassination attempt, showcasing her exceptional skills. This act ignites a deepened admiration within Cliff's heart, leading him to fall for her. However, as they return to Milishian, Cliff musters the courage to confess his feelings for Eris, only to face the reality of her rejection, realizing that Eris's heart belongs to another. Cliff accepts this and makes the decision to return to his own home. Geis visits Paul, revealing he is a member of Paul's party. Geis encourages Paul to mend his relationship with Rudeus, reminding him that Rudeus is, after all, still a kid. Haunted by nightmares of the things that may have happened to Rudeus, Paul resolves to give up drinking, recognizing the need for a change. The following day, Rudeus and Paul meet up again. Awkwardness looms in the air due to the fallout of their fight. However, Rudeus quickly realizes that Paul had misunderstood his initial intentions and that he was genuinely attempting to apologize. With hearts laid bare, they engage in a heartfelt talk. During this cathartic conversation, Rudeus confides in Paul, expressing his intentions to embark on a quest to search for the remainder of their family once he safely escorts Eris back home, even though the fate of Eris's own family remains unknown. As the two part ways once more, Paul learns from Geis that his search for the rest of Paul's family will persist, as he pledges to explore places they haven't checked yet. As Rudeus and his companions embark on their journey across the sea towards the central continent, Roxy finds herself returning to her home village. There, she begins to confront the lingering sense of displacement that comes from being unable to telepathically connect with her fellow villagers. Initially considering leaving quickly, Roxy sees how much her parents have missed her and decides to not follow through on that. During their reunion, Roxy's parents reveal that Rudeus had visited them 2 years prior. This revelation fills Roxy with immense relief, knowing that he is safe. With renewed determination, she bids farewell to her parents, accompanied by her fellow adventurers, as they resume their quest to scour the Demon Continent in search of the remaining members of Rudeus' scattered family. Guided by the human god once again, Rudeus embarks on a mission to reunite with Lilia and Aisha. Arriving in the kingdom of Sharon, Rudeus wastes no time in reaching out to Roxy with a letter, who serves as a teacher in the palace. Rudeus then saves Aisha from some pursuers. Following the human god's advice, Rudeus decides to conceal his true identity from his sister upon their reunion. A series of misunderstandings ensues when Aisha discovers a pair of panties belonging to Roxy. Because of this, Aisha develops an unfavorable opinion of her older brother, considering him to be a pervert, which is true. Rudeus is summoned to the palace for an audience with Roxy. However, his plans are derailed as he falls into a trap orchestrated by the 7th Prince of Sharon, Pax. Holding Lilia hostage and driven by an infatuation with Roxy, Pax unveils his sinister plan to use Rudeus as bait in order to capture the object of his desire. While confined in his cell, Rudeus receives an unexpected visit. The 3rd Prince of Sharon, Zenoba. Filled with admiration for Rudeus's exceptional sculpting skills, Zenoba expresses his desire to become his apprentice. Rudeus informs Zenoba that only Pax, the mastermind behind his imprisonment, holds the key to his release. Undeterred, Zenoba pledges to resolve the predicament at hand. In the meantime, Pax's guard strike a deal with Ruigerd, Eris, and Aisha. In exchange for their assistance in rescuing their captive families, the guards smuggle them into the palace. As the plan unfolds, Zenoba manages to apprehend Pax, exposing his true strength as a blessed child. Known as the Decapitator Prince, leaving him no choice but to comply with their demands and release Rudeus from his imprisonment. Pax's guards, upon learning that their loved ones are now safe, refuse to assist any further. With this crisis averted, arrangements are made for Lilia and Aisha to return home. As a gesture of goodwill, Lilia returns Roxy's panties to Rudeus, a lighthearted reminder of their earlier misinterpretation. Additionally, Lilia presents Rudeus with a precious necklace crafted by Sylphiette for his 10th birthday. In turn, Rudeus gifts his forehead protector to Aisha as a memento. Before bidding farewell, Aisha offers a heartfelt apology to Rudeus for her previous accusations, even though they were kind of true, revealing that she had known his true identity as her brother all along. Meanwhile, Pax and Zenoba, in the aftermath of the scandal, are forced into exile from the Sharon kingdom under the guise of embarking on a study abroad. As Rudeus, Eris, and Ruigerd continue their journey, they unexpectedly encounter Orsted, the dragon god. Overwhelmed by fear, Eris and Ruigerd freeze in their tracks, refusing to move. However, Rudeus, undeterred by their warnings, musters his courage and begins conversing with Orsted. Orsted mistakes Rudeus for one of the human god's apostles and launches an attack. Despite Eris and Ruigerd's attempt to protect Eris, they are swiftly overpowered by Orsted, who inflicts a fatal wound upon Rudeus. As Rudeus' life slips away, he finds himself in the presence of the human god, who unveils that Orsted has cursed that illicit, irrational fear in all living beings. Remarkably, Rudeus remains unaffected by this curse. In his final moments, Rudeus expresses gratitude to the human god. However, rather than succumbing to death, Rudeus inexplicably returns to the realm of the living. He soon learns that Nanahoshi, Orsted's companion, interceded on his behalf, successfully persuading Orsted to spare Rudeus' life before the two depart. At night, Rudeus confides in Ruigerd about the true nature of the human god and the gradual fading of the suppered curse. The next day, the party arrives at the ruins of Rudeus' long-lost hometown, triggering a flood of memories from his earlier life. Ruigerd declares that Rudeus and Eris have grown strong enough to no longer require his protection. He announces his departure, with Rudeus and Eris saying goodbye. Continuing their journey, Rudeus and Eris venture onward to Roa, also a devastated ruin. There, they encounter Ghislaine along with her servant, Alphonse. However, amidst the bittersweet reunion, Alphonse delivers news of Eris's partner's falling victim to the teleportation incident, and her grandfather meeting a tragic fate by being executed. Alphonse further reveals a proposal from another branch of the Greyrat family, offering Eris a chance to preserve her lineage through marriage. Yet, Ghislaine staunchly opposes this arrangement. Rudeus finds out that Sylphiette is not presumed dead. Her whereabouts remain unknown. As the night falls, Eris visits Rudeus and they have sex. However, when Rudeus awakes the next morning, he finds himself alone, learning that Eris and Ghislaine are going to an unknown destination. Rudeus finds himself trapped in the depths of despair as haunting memories of his past life resurface, replaying the painful experiences of severe bullying that left him scarred and withdrawn. Meanwhile, driven by her determination to protect Rudeus from Orsted, Eris embarks on a journey accompanied by Ghislaine to get stronger. Ruigerd comes to the aid of travelers in need, rescuing them from vicious beasts. Despite revealing his true identity as a suppard, the people he saves recognizes his bravery and praise him for his selfless actions. Zenobia and Geese continue on their separate paths, their hearts reminiscing with their time spent with Rudeus. In Doldia village, Guys and Tona are training. Roxy crosses path with Kishirika and lends a helping hand by settling Kishirika's overwhelming bar tab. Grateful for Roxy's kindness, Kishirika utilizes her demon eyes and unveils the whereabouts of Rudeus' family. This brings relief to Roxy, as Aisha and Lilia are found to have safely reunited with Paul and Norn, while Zena's presence is discovered in the labyrinth city of Rapan on the Megarit continent. This newfound knowledge propels Roxy and her companions into immediate action as they journey to the Megarit continent to rescue Zenith. While Rudeus remains trapped in his depression, a flicker of hope ignites within his heart as he experiences a dream of his mother, Zenith. The realization of his duty to find and protect her dispels his insecurities and rekindles his resolve to continue his journey. Unbeknownst to Rudeus, Sylphiette, alive and bearing white hair, seeks to convince an unknown group, persuading them to consider recruiting Rudeus into their ranks.